Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood nights. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying.
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of your six-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on Thursday, April 3rd. LA Galaxy 0-0 draw with Tigres in CONCACAF Champions Cup. We're going to talk about that game. Is there a little bit of momentum there? What can we tell you about talking with the players, the coaches, and everything after that that might make you feel a little bit better for this next game coming up? But it is a gauntlet for the LA Galaxy. That's right, 2 away games at altitude. Good luck, good Lord, hold on. Can the LA Galaxy find their first win in the league in 2025? All right, a lot to get to, a lot to talk about. We're glad to have him back in the big comfy chair. It's Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira. Eric, how's it going, bud?
It's going well. I knocked something over in my comfy chair as I was turning back and forth, but fortunately I was on mute. I had followed the rules, so no one got that except that I just mentioned it. But good to be back either way. Yeah,
it's a good note for Kevin Baxter, by the way, that there's a mute button. You can use it, and nobody has to hear you opening a water bottle every time. Not that I'm just right next to it. Yeah, right. Could you now? Let me hear you slurp whenever you're. Yeah, wonderful, perfect, great. Now I feel.
So the thing is,
I feel right at home.
Good times. We're off to a flying start. 13th place.
Capybaras, huh? That's
the chat is lively with capybaras. Yeah, it's a good time in here.
LA Galaxy, Tigres, Tuesday night, cold. The coldest I have been in. I was not prepared. I fully admit I was not prepared for the night, as I should have been, Eric. I should have read that it was going to be windy. I should have known that Carson is a wind tunnel. I should have known all these things. Instead, what I wore was a light hoodie, right? And then froze for the almost entire night. And people were, sometimes I think it's funny. Fans are always buying scarves. They're always buying jackets. You got a jacket on right now. They're always buying jackets this is the time for a season that 60-70% of it, you will never approach any scarf or jacket or any. It's going to be hot. You're going to be in shorts and a t-shirt, even if it gets in the night. Maybe you'll have a light sweatshirt. That's it. But it does seem like there's a lot of accoutrement that is made for the frio, for the cold.
Yeah.
All right. And we never really get to use it. That's all.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying.
That's a great point. I would agree. Probably about 75% of the games, you probably just need a jersey and shorts, and you're in good shape. So again, the jackets are mostly outerwear. Now that I'm thinking about it, very rarely have I worn a jacket to the digs, even on a evening game. But it's the wind chill that gets you. They say that every time.
That's what I hear.
It's not necessarily the temperature, but it's that wind once it starts hitting you in the wrong spot. And that's you're in the ivory tower up in the press box there, so I can imagine. Those fans in the stands, what they had to deal with. But yeah, fun times.
No wind whatsoever in the press box. Usually it blows right over top of the stadium or beside. I felt bad for Miss Pervino was out in one of the why can't I think the little huts, the cabanas? That's what I was.
Okay, the cabana.
He was in a cabana.
Big time in us, huh?
Yeah, he is. He is pretty big time, 100%. But so he was in one of the cabanas, and he was saying the wind was just blowing through there, and it's yeah, I could see that.
Which can I start with some shout outs already?
Shout out, go ahead.
So I saw on my TikTok feed, there's a guy who does solo dates. He's a bus driver, and then whenever he goes to drop the kids off at a Knott's Berry Farm or something, he goes and he enjoys the amusement park. He goes on these solo dates goes out, films himself eating. The guy has an appetite like no other. But shout out to the LA Galaxy for getting him to a game. I believe he was Kike, the person who kind of hooked him up and set him up with a great game day experience. I know he was with ACB. He was in, Riot Squad. He was with the Tailgate. So shout out to the LA Galaxy for coordinating that. I know sometimes influencers get a bad rap in terms of, you're paying the influencer to do X or Y. But this guy's content, I believe his name is Noe, it's very wholesome. And so you can tell that he had a great time at the match and just what they were able to create. I think it was probably the Orlando match, not the Tigres match, but this just made me think of it.
Right.
But, shout out to the LA Galaxy and Kike for setting him up, because I think it paints the Galaxy in a good light when you create content like that. And it just kind of, you're able to showcase all the cool things that he was in the Champions, buffet up there, having a good time with the great seats. They hooked him up. So just shout out to the Galaxy for once again, proving that they know what they're doing, over on TikTok and social media.
Can I tell you a secret? It won't go anywhere, right?
Okay.
Just between us.
Just between you and I. No one's listening.
Yeah, nobody's listening, especially not my wife. One of the most fun times in my life ever was right after I actually got divorced, and I was like solo for a little bit. I did so many solo things that were awesome. Like, I just went to the movie. I was after work. I was like, what am I going to do? I'll just go to a movie. And I went and saw a movie. And you know what? After I'd done that movie, I watched another one. I was like, this is great. I don't have to.
Double header?
Double header. You know what? I can eat popcorn for dinner. Nobody's the boss of me, right? The whole deal. I will also say that while I don't say you should do it every time, Disneyland solo, amazing. Everybody should go to Disneyland by themselves, especially without kids, especially without a wife. You can walk as fast as you want to walk. You can go on the rides that you want to go. You can use the solo rider line.
Single rider. I was going to say, don't bury the lead here.
That is. I mean, Splash Mountain 6 times in a row just because you want to? Sure, 100%. Drinking hot chocolate on the train and just going around and around and around.
You don't have anywhere to be. There's no reservation. No one to report home to. Yeah, shout out to you.
I'm just.
I don't know if we've discussed this. Have we? I figure like we've had this conversation. Right. But a solo movie, even as someone who's married with kids and responsibilities, every once in a while, a solo movie, great time to get away. And when we had our Disneyland passes. It's a chore when you take the double stroller and you have everyone and you're doing that. So every once in a while, you go on your own. You go on your own and you still have a good time. So take advantage of that if you have it. I am not ashamed to say I've taken a solo Disneyland trip, solo movie. Take some time for you every once in a while.
Aaron in the chat room goes, so you recommend divorce? Like, sometimes, Aaron, sometimes yes. Sometimes maybe you should. Sometimes maybe you shouldn't. I'm not saying it's not for everybody. All right, but in this particular case, it was okay for a little while. All right, so everything was good.
Time and place.
Also, like going with people, that's a good time too. But I would go to a Galaxy game by myself. I went to whenever I was in London, I went to a Chelsea game by myself. I wish I would have had people with me on that one because I was like, am I going to get? I'd be like, you got to be careful which side you're sitting on and all this sort of stuff. So don't worry, security stopped me almost immediately. You know how you think you're cool? Let's just for a second. You think you're cool, right, Eric? You're like, I'm just a normal guy. Nobody can tell that I'm an American here in London. The whole deal. Walked into the Stamford Bridge area where the first place you have to go by security got stopped by a security immediately. Yeah. So you're visiting, huh? Come on,
it's
man.
Usually the sneakers are a tell. I don't know. White sneakers are a tell for Americans on vacation. Yeah.
Scott is in the. He goes, I'm single this week, and he went solo on Saturday. I saw Scott there, so I got to hang out with Scott for a little bit, which was nice. So it was good to see him. So anyway, that's what we have headed off. The only good thing about the cold was that I would say that the Tigres goalkeeper Guesman was also cold during warmups. Like whenever he was waiting for not the anthem because you don't have the anthem play, but they stood there for a long time while the CONCACAF Champions Cup anthem that goes on for 7 minutes was still playing and doing all that stuff. And I could tell he was also cold, so that made me feel good. I was like, okay, maybe Tigres is a little cold out there. That was good. They also got to run around. I did not.
Home field advantage. Yeah, use whatever you can.
100%. I did go down to the. I walked around the concourse a little bit before the Tigres game just to sort of see a lot more Galaxy fans than I thought there were going to be, and a lot less Tigres fans than I thought there were going to be. I thought it was going to be pretty lopsided in terms. I will say there were more Galaxy fans there than Tigres fans as far as I could tell. So it was interesting to watch that. I went down and got some popcorn because I wanted popcorn. Some of those prices, man. It's popcorn. I know how much the popcorn costs. All right. I just want to say, but it was nice to have some popcorn, that type of thing. Werner, by the way, $5 super chat. Coldest game I've personally been to. It was great meeting you, breaking down the first half and bumping fists at halftime. The halftime circle stays undefeated. I'm just saying.
Yeah. There is no better time than the the halftime fist bumps and circles. And yeah, the circle, I'm away, so I don't get to see it as often, but the circle is also growing. It seems like each season it just gets a little bit bigger each season. So,
they're going to have to give us our own designated spot here. We do get yelled at on a regular basis, so that's okay. Getting to some Galaxy news and get this out of the way, some stuff. Christian Ramirez voted the player of the month, 4 goals, 4 games. I thought that was a pretty easy decision. The only other person you could possibly put in there was maybe Peck. I thought maybe Tucker Lepley might sneak in there, but I don't think he was an option just because seeing how much he played and how he did. Harbor Miller was an option in there. Harbor would have been a good one, but sort of fizzled out towards the end just because he didn't play. So that was sort of Christian Ramirez was the correct call. Good job, everybody. You did it. You did it.
We did it, Joe. The interesting thing about that, it feels like a little bit of an on the nose pick, but sometimes that's the correct call. The funny thing is on the broadcast, I believe it was on the Orlando game when he scored his goal. Mm-hmm. They said, well, he's on fire as of late. And I'm like, the Galaxy haven't won a game all season. I don't know, categorizing a player being on fire would be the correct thing. But when you look at the stats, one of the few bright spots on this LA Galaxy team is Ramirez. He's banging in the goals. It was our concern heading into this season. And maybe, it's not coming up in those big moments that we want in terms of game-winning goals. But the balls are hitting the back of the net and Christian Ramirez is part of the reason for that. So I don't think we can fault the guy for 5 games through the season, having 3 MLS goals, and then if you count the CONCACAF goals, that's a separate thing. But I think he's on pace to do exactly what we want him to do.
I used to have there was a volleyball coach in high school, and he coached, what was it, like econ too, right? Because the coaches always have to coach one class or something like that. So it was econ. And whether you were playing volleyball, he'd be en fuego, right? That's all I was thinking.
Wow.
Christian Ramirez en fuego. So he has that. A big birthday shout out to Mr. Roman Alessandrini, always a fan favorite. You can't pass up on
it back
on the Alessandrini. I saw that posted today. I was like, Roman Alessandrini, the man, the myth.
What a dream that guy is.
He's dreamy. He's a dream.
I was gonna say, it set you up for it. Alessandrini, there he is.
He's right there. And then another very big birthday is, of course, this one. Oh, I screwed it up. There we go. Happy birthday to Will Kuntz as well, who I like to see every once in a while. I do something really dangerous on the show. Happy birthday, Will.
Happy birthday, Will. Shout out to you. I mentioned it, commented on the LA Galaxy Instagram. I said, this should be a national holiday. We should absolutely celebrate this day in Galaxy lore because, Will Kuntz has his fingerprints all over last season's MLS Cup. So, made man forever with that trophy there.
They don't take the cups away, as you say, right? They keep them in the trophy cabinet. But I do every once in a while. I like to slum it. I go on some of the LA Galaxy fan group chats on Facebook, just because I'm like, let's see how crazy this gets.
It's called being a sicko, Josh.
Right. Yeah. And the hate messages that Will Kuntz is already getting. He destroyed the team, Eric. He destroyed the team. I'm like, what? Where are we? What? I was like, where? Who is maybe it was a different Will Kuntz. Are they confused? I don't know. So anyway.
That's funny. I didn't know you were going to share that story after I just gushed about him being a made man forever.
You are correct. I mean, up to a certain point, obviously.
Well, it's going to run its course eventually.
He knows
he's not going to be a general manager. What is it in Veritas where they're forever.
Right?
They're doing it. So eventually, of course, the window's going to run up. But right now, like I said, the trophies stay in the cabinet. But that also just solidifies. I've been a little bit more offline recently, and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe maybe we just shouldn't be on Facebook all the time, on formerly Twitter X all the time. Sometimes it's okay to take a little step back and not necessarily be chronically online.
The whole thing is that, and this is true of Greg Vanney, it's true of anybody, any player, any coach, any front office person, president, you name it. You're going to get fired. It is coming. It is just a matter of time when that happens, right? Now, hopefully it's 10 years, 12 years down the road, and you had a nice long run. Look at Peter Vermees. He was going to get fired eventually. After SKC lost, I was talking to Damian Calhoun, and I was like, Damian, Peter's gone. That was it. I tell you that they didn't win an MLS Cup last year, so that's how I know he's not going to make it.
Out.
Yeah, that's it. Time was out on that. And so, no, you see that. So everybody knows that. It all runs their course. You hope it's a long stay for everybody because quite honestly, that means success. That means that something's happening and something's going right. But everybody knows you're hired to be fired. But on his birthday, at least we should say happy birthday to Will, and appreciate all the time he spent on our podcast explaining things. And I'm sure we'll have him on here again in the very near future. So always good. And besides, our biggest fan is his mother-in-law. I believe Emily is her name. So I am right there all the time.
I was going to say biggest fan, probably tallest fan as well. If we count Will Kuntz as part of the, the geometry there. Is that right?
I don't know.
Geometry.
I don't know.
Hey, whatever.
Yeah,
Hey, we're moving on.
It's confusing. LA Galaxy and Tigres 0-0. Here is, I was having a discussion in Discord today about what people saw in that game. Let me start at the back end, which is, let me tell you what I learned after the game. And one is that in CONCACAF Champions Cup, it is not a normal press run. We have what we call the mix zone. And if we haven't explained the mix zone to everybody, it is a magical, magical place. The mix zone is where you stand behind a barrier and then you beg, plead, and grab to get players to stop and talk to you. And it's just a big long line and you sort of get in groups. Like there's usually like a Spanish language group down on one end, and then there's the English language on the other, and then there's maybe some in between. Maybe there's a Japanese group and they're in there. So you're all sort of standing in your little groups waiting for players to come by. I will tell you that usually that's a difficult place to be. It's a difficult place to gather stuff and the whole deal. It was very easy. All the Galaxy players who came out wanted to talk. They were stopping by. They were saying hi. There was good conversations were had. We got to talk to Greg Vanney in the press conference. I will say, and I've been talking about how Greg Vanney has been a little short, a little irritated, a little frustrated. It seems like, at least from the outside, that may be totally wrong, but from the outside, I can imagine he's sort of like, I can't believe I've talked to these guys. And with CONCACAF Champions Cup, you have to talk to us all the time. We are always talking. And I'm like, I get it. I don't really want to talk to you either, Greg. 100%. But I felt like there was a little edge to him. And I will say that after the game for Tigres, I felt that was softened. I felt like the players wanted to talk. The players felt, I think they felt a little charge after that game, right? Now we go back to the beginning. I said it whenever I was talking on Monday. I thought the Galaxy would lose this game 3-1. I didn't think that there was going to be any chance. I didn't love how they were playing. And when you're talking about Tigres, you're talking about the best level of competition the LA Galaxy have faced this year. And that's hands down easily to say. Greg Vanney will tell you, players will tell you, they'll talk about the technical abilities of 11 players on the field. Greg Vanney even said it afterwards. He said, hey, I love playing in these games because there are 11 players out there who are all good players. They're all technically sound. They all know what they're doing. They all think. So for me, that's the prism and the window that I sort of look at through the lens of Tigres. Was it the best game the LA Galaxy have ever played? No. But I will tell you, they surprised the heck out of me. I thought that they were controlling when they needed to be, especially in the first half. That was Joseph Paintsil starting, I think certainly had something to do with that. But in that first half, they were controlling, they were surprising, they frustrated Tigres. And really, I think they shifted how Tigres played in the second half. I think Tigres was like, we need to get out of here with zeros. And I think the Galaxy were also like, worst case scenarios, we need to get out of here with zeros, but we need to make sure they don't score any goals. And so I've seen people sort of mention the second half and how it played out. But for me, from a tactical standpoint, from an ability to understand what you needed to do, how you needed to do it, that was almost an A+ showing for the LA Galaxy, understanding the level of competition they were playing.
Yeah, A+ is generous. I think A+ would be the win, but I think you can give it an A-, solid A in terms of where they go out. I think looking back on this game, I was with you going in. You think, okay, how big of a blowout is this going to be? But then you realize maybe this isn't the Tigres of past years where they were, blowing away competition, but this is still a top 4 LigaMx side. And so, formidable opponent, and they still have a lot of talent on that other squad. So to be able to go in there, frustrate them, walk out with a 0-0 draw, I think that's a success. And it also solidifies what we've been seeing with this team all season long. They've been in games. They haven't really gone out and put out I was going to say they haven't put out an embarrassing performance, but that Orlando game had some embarrassing moments.
It felt bad,
to go into it. But they're not getting blown off the field for 90 minutes, and so this just kind of solidified. Hey, when their feet are to the flames, they're able to rise to the occasion and get it done. So I think standing tall, getting, it's not a point, but being able to hold, Tigres scoreless, and then who knows what can happen in a second leg. It's they'll be on their home turf, But we saw Vancouver go in and make things happen on their away fixture and walk away in advance to the next round. So who's to say that the Galaxy can't go in there and pull a smash and grab and make things happen? So I think what you're describing from the post game, probably from Vanney and the players, is probably a sense of pride that they walked away. Hey, we have a little bit of our mojo back, especially given how the game ended in Orlando. To be able to say we posted a shutout against top level competition, I think that's going to have you puff out your chest a little more and give you the confidence boost that you need to hopefully get an MLS win. It's funny when you said Greg Vanney was a little short. I wasn't sure if that was a Diego Lainez joke because of him holding the ball. I don't know if you.
I wish I had that video. The pictures are better, quite honestly. The pictures capture it.
If you haven't seen the clip, the Greg Vanney, the ball goes out of the touchline, and then he holds the ball above his head, and Diego Lainez tries to get it, and then he just starts chirping at the referee because the fourth official came to talk to him, and he just goes, "What do you want me to do? Give the ball to them? It's our ball." And he was 100% correct. Yes. So you could just tell his frustration and his fire came out, and that's. Whenever we look at teams and say, okay, you want to see the fire, you want to see the playing for the badge, right? That's the type of guy you want as the gaffer, as the one in charge. And Greg Vanney, that's a small clip, a funny clip, but it exactly kind of embodies who you want in charge of your club.
The funny thing was obviously Yanez this was like trying to reach for the ball and Greg Vanney's holding it up, and Greg is not tall. Like Greg's not a tall guy.
He's not Will Kuntz height.
Right. No, but the fourth official was like some big lurch guy too. Like he was giant.
That's also true.
Right. Yeah. And so he's like staring down at Greg, and Greg's like, "What? You want me to give him the ball? It's our ball. What am I supposed to do?"
Yeah,
like
Greg has some fight in him. Yeah,
of course. That's the player in him for sure. I'm pretty sure Greg Vanney, in order to get eye to eye with that fourth official, would have had to been on top of Dan Kalichman's shoulders. But no, it was a very humorous. I wish I would have seen it before I went down, just to be like, what was that exchange? Like, I don't know if there was I don't know if there was a funny moment in there or not that like you could get Greg to sort of relate. And he was like, "What do you want me to do?" I imagine Greg's like, "No, I just didn't want to give him the ball. It's our ball. Like, why would I give him the ball?" And the fourth official didn't say anything because he knew he was wrong. Yeah. He was wrong. He just turned around and walked away.
Hey,
right?
I've been there, fourth official, where you're wrong and you just have to say, "Yeah, you know what? I'm just gonna take the L and walk away on this one."
The only thing that I think I've seen funnier from Greg Vanney is when we didn't know whether or not he was wearing a shirt in Seattle. That was still
unintentional, but still
but still great, right? The 100%. I wonder if Greg. See again. The Galaxy really need to start winning because there's funny moments you can ask about, but you can't ask about it when they're not winning. That's not.
I think you said we knew that in the moment. The Galaxy better take points away from this game because if they don't, then we can't ask them the shirt question.
We can't ask them funny questions, and that's not fair. So anyway, no, I thought that was really interesting. The starting lineup for the LA Galaxy, surprisingly, Joseph Paintsil started. Knowing what they did, which was sub him at halftime, it made sense. But by the way, if you haven't, I would suggest that you do. But the LA Galaxy on their YouTube page did a behind the scenes with Joseph Paintsil coming back from injury. I don't know. I found it very insightful. Like
those are always good. Yeah, I know they have them available on Apple TV and those, behind the scenes with the Galaxy, and they do lots of different features. Those are always those have been solid since last season. So I haven't checked that one out, but I'd be interested to check that out. They always do a really good job, especially given how he started that game where he absolutely smoked someone on that end line, and that gave me a lot of peace. Like, okay, JP is back if he's able to turn on the Jets like that.
Almost every single player that we talked to mentioned that moment. Greg Vanney mentioned the moment. Greg Vanney mentioned that moment again today. Because we were all watching and you're like, oh, Joseph Paintsil, here he goes. He's starting to run. And I think you forget how fast he is because for a second, it almost looked like the defender was going to like keep up with him for a second. You're like, oh, wow. And then all of a sudden, it's not even close.
Not even close. Yeah.
Yeah. In the video, they were talking about Joseph Paintsil and about his like exerted effort over like 90%, right? Because basically they track that and they can see how fast you go and how much you run. And the trainer in this said, with Joseph Paintsil, you have to expect that in a game, he will give you 9 or 10 moments where he exerts over that 90-95%. So you're talking about full on running from Joseph Paintsil. He's giving you all he has in the tank, and that's why you need that hamstring and everything to be like good to go. And so they were talking about it. I just thought it was really interesting that they track it. Whenever he did the training and sort of they were like, okay, they grabbed and downloaded the data so that way they could go back and look and sort of see how fast he was running, like in terms of what percentage of his, total was his max was it? So that way they could be like, yeah, he's ready to go back, right? That type of thing. So
that's great.
certainly interesting, and I would suggest do it. But back to the starting lineup, watching Joseph Paintsil in there, Christian Ramirez, Gabriel Peck, Diego Fagundes, Edwin Cerrillo, Isaiah Parente. John Nelson was back after injury, so he's back in and good to go. Miro Garces was in there, Maya Yoshida, who had to come out in the 31st minute. We'll talk about him too, and Miki Amane back there, and then John McCarthy getting the double start after the blunder in Orlando. Certainly got to talk to John afterwards as well. So just a little bit of defiance, I think, from both Greg Vanney and John McCarthy, which was always fun. I love it when these guys go dig in a little bit, get a little. The cleats are coming up. You know, they're just lifting the foot off the ground. They're going to get somebody. They're not going to get you bad, but they want to get you a little bit. Remind you that they're there.
Yeah, is this the opening to talk about it? Because I feel like I'm more confused now than I've ever been with this goalkeeper situation. Because they've started 3 MLS games apiece, I believe. Is that where we're at on 6 games?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so 3 MLS games apiece, and so McCarthy gets the start in the CONCACAF games. There was a little bit of a shuffle with the mistake. Does this mean Mitrovic is not going to see CONCACAF, and then maybe we see Mitrovic this weekend? I feel like this is the biggest puddle of mud. When that free kick went through his hands in Orlando, I was like, what? This is the last thing we need. We thought this controversy, at the beginning of the season caused a little kerfuffle, and then that happens, and it just opens Pandora's box all over again. And so I'm curious to see who's going to get the start at RSL, because I think I wouldn't be shocked if it's Mitrovic also.
I don't think you're going that way. There was a little bit of a it feels like a statement was made that John McCarthy's the number one, and that
regardless of
we're rolling. And whenever you're talking about, Greg sort of mentioned before the Tigres game that he was going to have to make a decision for the long term. That doesn't mean, and he goes, and by the way, he said that there is let's get to his one statement that I had, because this was after the Tigres game. And he said, and a little bit of a longer quote, but he says, "There's no question what John McCarthy can do. All that nonsense about this crisis crap is nonsense. We have 2 good goalkeepers, and they're both very capable. There's one job to do, and I know what each of them is capable of doing. John has done it for an entire season. I have the utmost confidence in John, and he came back out tonight and showed why he's that veteran goalkeeper. He can bounce back. So he made a mistake. And on my team, people are allowed. I love the whole, break for a second. On my team, people are allowed to make mistakes, right? And like the whole thing, you just have to respond to them in the right way. And you've got to bounce back, and you got to do your job. And he did a nice job tonight. John McCarthy, the highest rated player for the LA Galaxy by FOTMob.
Yeah.
And
I was going to say, he had a great game, and this is where I'm going to go full fourth official and just take the L and walk away to where I said I wouldn't be shocked. But he's absolutely correct. He came back and he had a great game. Some major saves in that game to keep the shutout and to keep it 0-0. So he's right. You can make mistakes and come back from it. If the mistakes happen consistently, then we can start to have the conversation. But I think, with that lens of it, would I be shocked if I saw Mitrovic? No. But at the same time, after hearing that, statement from Vanney, I kind of see the logic of, putting your eggs in that basket and supporting your guy after you make your mistakes. I think subbing him after that mistake would have been more harm than good. So right. I like that he got the start and the opportunity, but I don't think this door is all the way closed yet. I will say that he may be upset that it's a controversy and that people are upset about it.
Right.
But at the same time, if we don't have solid performances or things where it looks like it's not on the goalkeeper for some of these goals, this is just going to continue to be a conversation. Over the course of last season, we saw it work itself out, and you just hope that it kind of trends the same way this season.
The John McCarthy after the game. John was great, by the way. Talking to John is always fun. There's I say this, there's no better guy in the locker room. There's no better guy you sort of want on your team. Everybody's a fan of John McCarthy whenever, whenever
you get that vibe 100% to everyone you talk to.
Everybody you talk to loves him. And this is John McCarthy, because I asked him, I said, I'm sure you've seen the media, and you weren't the number one whenever this started. And what do you see this goalkeeper crisis? And John goes, I try to play my game as much as possible. I believe in myself. I believe in the way that I play. I've been critiqued. I've been doubted my whole effing life. I cleaned that up a little bit. So it doesn't matter to me, and I'll do whatever it takes to win. And if you want to doubt me, doubt me. If you don't, I'm going to play. Right? Like the whole day. It doesn't matter. John McCarthy, it doesn't matter. You want to crown him? Crown him. You want to crown him? Crown him. John McCarthy is so just again, some little defiance, some little things. But all of that being said, that was a well-structured, well-respected response. John McCarthy knew that somebody was going to ask him that question, and he wanted the chance to respond, and he got the chance to respond, right? It was like sometimes I think people think that like reporters are trying to like play gotcha moments with people. These guys know these questions are coming from a million miles. I wish that I could come up with like a side by, let me get you on this question. No, it doesn't happen. These guys know.
Yeah, you think they're going to ask about that mistake after the game? Yeah, he had to know it was coming. And last week, I had a little bit of a devil's advocate run on the Galaxy's injury situation and how it was allowing a lot of the young players to get minutes that they maybe otherwise would not have gotten. So I'm going to do a little devil's advocate positive spin on this John McCarthy situation as well. Some of these mistakes and maybe not being the number one to start the season, maybe this is the thing that is the smack in the face, that is the dunk in the cold water, that motivates him to kind of play out of his mind against Tigres and to play out of his mind as the season goes down, knowing that there is no, safety net underneath him. So maybe this is just the way that McCarthy operates. I'm not saying it was by design, no, I don't think you intentionally want to, dump goals into your own net, but this is something that can absolutely kind of, move the team in a different direction. When you have that little bit of an extra edge, you don't have the safety net, you have to claw a little bit harder, people are going to get more critical from it. Some people fold under that type of pressure, and some people, that's when they shine even more. And I think what we've seen from John McCarthy is that when he's put in situations where it looks like it's all going to go sideways, he usually comes out on top on the other side of it.
The injury in this game was Maya Yoshida going down in the 31st minute, or replaced in the 31st minute. According to Greg Vanney, he actually sat down real quick as soon as he felt it start to get tight because he didn't want to hurt it anymore. He goes, Maya being the veteran that he is and understanding what's going on, he's like, it's getting tight, get me out of here, right? The whole deal. So Zonka comes in. I'm going to say something, and I don't think I said it at halftime with the group, and I don't think it's controversial, and I think that everybody realistically should be like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Zonka's a good defender. Zonka can absolutely fill in for Maya Yoshida while Maya's gone. I like Maya and Zonka together. I like Zonka and Amiro together. We got to talk to Zonka afterwards. He is confident. He likes playing in Los Angeles. He likes playing with this team. He says, man, I said, are you feeling comfortable? And he was sort of like, there's a lot of parts and pieces. He goes, it's the first time I really played next to Amiro in a game. And he goes, I'm really comfortable with Maya because he and I come from similar backgrounds, right? So we sort of understand how you play. He goes, Emmy, I think he said like Emmy's a little wild, right? Like he's just a little wild, right?
But that's why we love him. Yeah.
100%. So he was sort of talking about that. He goes, and Emmy's a little wild. He goes, I think once he figures out sort of what to do with that stuff, he's going to be like really good. He goes, and I'll help him, that type of thing. So Zonka's just he's a class human too. Like Maya, by the way, class human. I mean, first of all, this whole Galaxy team is pretty much filled with class human beings. Diego Fagundes comes to mind as well. Tucker Lepley's outstanding. Harbor Miller is a ridiculous young kid who acts like he's 25 when he's 17. Amiro Garces looks like he's just out there having fun. Like he just loves playing soccer. That's Amiro Garces. He's just like, I'm gonna go get somebody.
Another one who you could tell is loved in the locker room. I had this conversation in the Discord as I struggled to wake back up after adjusting with Central Time and that kickoff time after the game. And I like that you almost doubled down on that. Not to say that Yoshida isn't a classy individual, and we appreciated his Iron Man abilities, getting some of the most minutes for the LA Galaxy. But what we saw is there was not a drop off when he went from Yoshida to Zonka, and I think I don't think that's rude to say to Yoshida, but it makes you feel better that if Yoshida is we talked about this with his age and with his experience, maybe him being the Iron Man isn't a realistic situation. We've seen the injury bug catch up with the LA Galaxy this season. So, the expectation that he was going to play all 34 games, maybe, we're starting to see that that's not the case. I think Zonka filled in nicely, and you don't see a drop off, and that maybe he could, even be a touch better than what Yoshida brings to you. And I think that's not an unfair thing to say. The thing that I really liked about Zonka, and it's something that I always look for in teams, is someone who has that extra grit, who's going to kind of be your enforcer and going to fight for your teammates. When we had those situations where they were fouling Gabriel Peck and they were kind of getting into it, Zonka was the first one to get in there and kind of impose his will and be that muscle be that, Yella Van Dam type guy, that, Nigel de Jong guy who's going to go in there and just take no prisoners and be your no nonsense guy. You need guys on a team that's going to be successful. I don't know that we had a guy like that. Maybe the closest I think may have been Gaston Brugman last season, but I think Zonka can fill that role as your enforcer. You don't want a Douglas Costa who's just going around body slamming people for no reason. You want it, to be justified, and you want your sheriff in there. And I think that more, and maybe it's just I'm a weird guy in that way. That more than his play on defense was impressive to me, because that shows leadership abilities. That shows someone that's going to have other players elevate to your level, and you're going to build trust and kind of build your lineup. And so it's just going to create, better rapport moving forward. He's a pro. He's played in World Cups. He's played on the national team at the national team level. So, he's going to figure the game part out. So those are the extra pieces that you want to see from your defenders who come in. And I think he passed the test to me as someone who's going to play for the badge and lay it all out. That I liked more than anything else from what I saw from him.
He's a pro's pro, right? Like he just knows how to be professional. And he talks about Emmy sort of learning how to be a professional soccer player, and what you do day in, day out, that type of thing. Tucker Lepley is another one who's sort of like getting into that finally, knowing what it means to be a professional soccer player in, day out. It was Javier over here asked $5 super chat, saying, love the show. Thanks for all that you guys do. In your opinion, who has been the Galaxy's best player these past games? I'm going to say that it's Tucker Lepley, and it's a really interesting sort of take on just what he just relentless over and over and over again. I was talking to Diego Fagundes after the game, and we were sort of messing around. One is I got to talk to Edwin Cerrillo and Diego Fagundes. With Edwin, I was like, how are your legs? He's like, I'm hanging in there. Yeah. The whole
He's
deal.
Been going nonstop, yeah. He's been the Iron Man this season so far.
The amount of minutes put on Edwin Cerrillo's legs right now is like off the charts crazy.
Fagundes is right there with him also.
So whenever Diego came over, I said, hey, I was asking Edwin how his legs are, and Diego just started laughing. He goes, mine are dead. He goes, and listen, Cerrillo was the same. I mean, a bunch. Those guys are just tired, right? Especially after the game in Tigres. It was a really difficult match. Diego was sort of saying, he goes, yeah, my legs are dead after this. He goes, I don't, and I want to put in the context, we were having some conversations about some other things, just sort of talking, and I was sort of saying, yeah, some people have a good game, some people weird don't. And he goes, listen, I'll be the first one to say when I don't have a good game. He goes, I thought I didn't play well this game, like against Tigres. And he goes, and I go, yeah, but Greg talked about your defensive side of things. He goes, oh, well, defensive side of things, I thought I was pretty good. I go, yeah, you were. I go, that's what we were talking about, is that, yeah, it didn't quite work out. And do you know why I think Fagundes had a little bit of a quieter game? And I said, well, you didn't have Lepley like running in and around you and coming off the side. And he goes, and your left back wasn't getting forward because the Galaxy were playing a little more. They were staying more at home. You want to say, some people said, oh, that looked like the Galaxy were scared. The Galaxy weren't scared, but they were being cautious. They were not going to make a mistake, right?
Disciplined is the right word.
Yes, 100%. It was a disciplined approach. They weren't going to overcommit. Greg talked about it afterwards. He goes, I thought there were a couple places where we could have committed more numbers to the ball and could have had those chances. He goes, but that's going to come, especially whenever you get guys like Joseph Paintsil back in and us learning. The tweak in this whole lineup and the crazy sort of thing that we saw that I don't know that we expected, because we've seen Greg do it before, is that it wasn't Joseph Paintsil on the left-hand side. It was Joseph Paintsil and Gabriel Peck overloading the right-hand side. And I think there was an idea there that not to put as much pressure on Joseph's legs, sort of playing in a 4-4-2, because even
Nascimento when he came in, right?
Yeah, Nascimento. That's a different story, because Greg talked about that too. But with Paintsil up top and sort of playing in that two-man forward, he didn't have to run as much, and so you're saving the legs a little bit more, that type of thing. But he was still put in a position to be able to combine with Gabriel Peck, use his right foot, his favored right foot. Like, there were a lot of things that were sort of shimmied to that side, and I thought the Galaxy could have exploited that right-hand side a little more. But then you have Fagundes on the left-hand side, who now, because you're going to get forward on that right-hand side, you have to tilt the formation back to the left and stay home a little bit more. And I think Fagundes trying to come in and play more of a 10, maybe a little more of a playmaker, was a little bit more cautious than maybe he would like to play, and maybe even Greg Vanney would like to play.
And that's something that you and I know have been shouting for, and a lot of people I know who I've had conversations with about this Galaxy team, is having Fagundes shift into more of that 10 role. I think we're going to see if Paintsil and Peck, when they're back, if you're able to use them as your outside wingers and then maybe put Fagundes in the middle. I think that's what we're waiting for, because we know he has the soccer IQ, and we know that he has the potential to put play that position and kind of pull the strings, you're not going to replicate what Ricky Puig does. But I think that's the piece that this Galaxy team is missing, is that maestro in the middle. And kudos to you for shouting out Tucker Lepley, because he's absolutely, someone who is proving himself and is impressing you more and more each time, that he's out on the field. So is that taking away from the thought of maybe having Fagundes go in there?
Yeah.
Who knows, what conversations happen in practice and what goes into. To answer Javier's question on Galaxy's best player these past games, the easy answer is Christian Ramirez, because he's the one with the goals. But the one that stood out to me in these opening stretch of games has been Aude. I really liked what he's brought. He really has shown a little bit more maturity. His talent on the ball to be able to hold off, not only to defend, but then able to, move forward and bring that offensive side to the game. He really, I think, has the potential to really take a big leap this season. And he's someone who's impressed me the most. John Nelson, solid game from him. So, not to disparage him at all, but Aude really has impressed me so far this season.
Who's better than Julian Aude? According to Juan and his $6.66 super chat, Ronaldo is better. I don't know why, but
I was going to say this has to be a troll, right? Are they coming after me?
Are you sure it's not like your burner account? I thought that you would just be like in there, just copy and pasting and doing stuff in there.
It's not me because it actually threw actual money into the chat, so that's
wasn't. Yeah, it
I'm
wasn't
not throwing money at this show. Come on.
No. Why would you? Yamane. Again, I think I'm impressed with him. I really like Parente. I know people are not high on Parente. I think he's doing a really good job. The guys were all talking about him afterwards and how when he came in, it sort of really solidified thing. Edwin Cerrillo said, just having him in there really helps them sort of play. Diego Fagundes talked about him breaking lines with passes and sort of being that guy. He's like a little mini, tiny, not as good, not anywhere near as good version of like Ricky Puig, but like you need somebody to create something in there.
But who is?
Yeah, I'm not. That's for sure. So it's one of those things. Watch, I think from what the LA Galaxy are at, you were talking about Diego Fagundes getting in at the 10 more. You know who really wants to see Diego Fagundes in at the 10 more? It's not Diego Fagundes, although I'm sure he would like to play there. So I don't think we didn't ask him that question. Greg Vanney said that he wants to see more of it. He goes, I want to get more. He goes, it's something we haven't had the option of doing yet because of the injuries. He goes, but I want him more in that role.
I felt like it was a Greg Vanney thing. I was like, is Greg Vanney seeing something that he's not shifting in there?
Paintsil.
But,
it's just Paintsil injury bodies. And not being able to because Fagundes is going to probably be your best bet on that left wing and sort of be like, okay, with Cuevas, Mauricio Cuevas still injured. You're not there. By the way, update on him it's still out there a while. So it's not, they're not suggesting that he's on his way back. So that type of thing. But no, overall, I thought it was fine. Nascimento, though, you mentioned him. Go ahead.
Can I wrap a bow on Parente real quick? Going back to Parente, I think I'm going to give him my John Nelson Award from 2024. Parente, the best thing you can say about a player sometimes is nothing at all, and that they go, I'm not going to say unnoticed, but Parente is not out there making mistakes. He's not out there making you say, why is this guy on the field? And I think for a player who's put in these situations, sometimes that's almost the best thing that you can ask for. Last season, when John Nelson, every time his number was called upon, I was like, I didn't even notice that he was in the game because he just was solid, did exactly what he was supposed to do. I think that's where Parente is right now. Right now, there are moments where he's not taking over the game, and you're not like, wow, Parente really put his fingerprints on this game, but he's not going in there and making the situation worse. And I think that maybe sounds like not really a compliment, but when you're playing at this level and what his age is, I think that's a supreme compliment for. I'd love to just go in and not make mistakes at my job sometimes. Sometimes that's fantastic. Yeah. That's exactly where you want to be. So shout out to Parente for being that guy right now.
Patrick says Parente has a set of skills that is vaguely similar to Delgado, which is why he matters. It is an interesting,
maybe unsung hero, Mark Delgado, right, for sure.
Right. Yeah. And you can feel the Galaxy missing him too right now. So Nascimento, they wanted to pull Joe out at 45 minutes. So there was going to be a switch up top. And Greg mentioned in the second half, because I don't think we got a lot out of the double pairing with Christian and Nasi. That's his nickname he's going by. Everybody's calling him Nasi.
Okay. So, I was going to say, we've got to shorten that.
Yeah. Nascimento. Like Amiro Garces is Emmy. You have to learn everybody's nickname because that's how they're going to refer to them, and you'll have to figure out who they're talking about, right? So you got to learn them all. But but Nasi in there and how he's playing. Greg says, basically he said, he's learning. And that's what we got out of it. He was learning. This is a big moment for him to be put in to sort of have the play. He goes, he thought Christian did a ton of work to try to work with Nascimento. If you were watching, I don't know if the camera picked it up from the field, but if you were watching, just the amount of work that Christian Ramirez was to try to communicate with Nascimento and try to like get him in a direction so that way he could be successful. I mean, he was pointing and sort of shifting. He was trying to like show him how to shift the formation and like all this stuff. And Greg said, you know, there's times when he wants Nasi to come back and get the ball and that he wasn't coming back to get the ball. And he goes, there's times I want him to run and he wasn't running. Like he goes, it's just everything for him right now. And he's like drinking from a water hose, right? This is all new stuff, new formation, sort of with the two forwards up top too. How does Greg Vanney want that to play? And so for Nasi, it's going to be about developing that understanding of the system. This is Dejan Jovalic territory in terms of when are you going to see the fruits of your labor? And the bottom line is, it might not be this year. Right?
Not right now.
Not
That's
right now.
For sure.
And I think he's on loan, and I think the Galaxy have an option of purchasing. And one of the big things, I think the reason they had him on loan was that with the salary cap and everything the way it is, that they're probably going to save the purchase for next year. But I do believe that they think this is a long-term project and that they want to come after him. So no, I didn't see a whole bunch from him. I'm not going to chalk that up as like, oh, he's a horrible player. I don't think we're there yet, right? We have to understand, he has to understand his job, his positioning, and what he's supposed to do and how to fit into that and do it in the way that Greg Vanney wants him to do. This is graduate level soccer here, which is good and bad. There's pluses and minuses to it, but that's what I think I saw from Nascimento.
Yeah, and Nasi hasn't taken the prerequisite level courses yet. That's what we're seeing.
Yeah.
And I think you mentioned it when he was first signed, that he was described as kind of a puppy with big paws and figuring it out. And I think that's the best way to describe what's happening right now. Is right now we have puppy training with Nascimento. I think you have someone who is very raw. If you take it for face value and just looking at his performances, you go, I don't know that I see it all the way with this as a forward who's going to be your goal scorer for this LA Galaxy team. I don't see it right now. And so that makes you a little bit nervous. But then when you take into consideration, he's learning, he's figuring things out. It's kind of a little bit of a nuance. He went in really hard with a couple challenges with shoulders. I think he learned in his first couple games that MLS play is physical.
Right.
And I think when you saw how, Tigres obviously was a LigaMx opponent, but they were playing aggressive and physical in nature, which was similar to what, how the league plays in general. So I think he's learning that you need to be a little bit more physical. You need to go in with the challenges a little bit harder. And I think he's just figuring all those things out. And so I'm not going to judge him right now. The nice thing about it is that you do have him on loan, so you do have the options and you're able to see if you're going to make progress, as opposed to, and I've seen this comp and I'm afraid to make this comp, as opposed to going in all in on a Kevin Cabral type where you're throwing all that money, you have a DP contract, and then what happens when it's a dud? You have to pay half the salary when he's on a different team.
Still paying him.
The nice thing about Nascimento, if by the end of the season it looks like this guy is not going to be able to figure it out, then no harm, no foul. You send him back and we figure other things out. So I'm going to reserve judgment on Nascimento. I don't see it yet, but that's not to say that he can't figure it out. And I'm just waiting. I'm waiting to see that glimmer, that thing, that flash, him making a cut, him taking a shot on target to makes me go, oh, this is why they signed him. I haven't seen that yet. And that's the part that makes me a little bit nervous as a fan.
2 super chats from Crazy. $5 super chat and a $1 super chat. We appreciate those both. Thank you very much.
I always love those. It's like, what are we supposed to say? You want to shout it out for the super chat, but also there's nothing there. So you just, hey, thumbs up.
That is correct. I don't.
You got it.
You got it. 100%. I kind of want to watch Billy Madison again. It's been a while, and I kind of want to get back there. It's just one of those comfort movies that is always good. So we appreciate that. The only other thing I think I'll say about this game is that I thought the Galaxy survived it well. I thought the Galaxy were bright at times. I think that, John McCarthy came up huge with a couple saves whenever the defense finally did break down. But overall, they were very well adjusted. I thought they were in good positions. They didn't leave too much out to risk, and I don't think there was. There was some CONCACAF refereeing, CONCACAF to 100%, especially.
Left some question marks for sure on some of these challenges. What's a yellow? What's not a yellow?
What's a second yellow? Yeah.
What did I ever know what a yellow card was? Who knows? Yeah.
No idea. 100%. And, Angulo should have had a second yellow card. The easiest, most clearly defined Andy Dioso was in there.
Yeah.
Like he looks at me and goes, is that not a yellow? I'm like, it's a yellow any other game in any other place, not in CONCACAF though, which really, that means he shouldn't be playing the next game against the LA Galaxy.
Which changes the game.
Changes the game. Guess what? That's what happens whenever you run through Gabriel Peck, whenever last guy, it's not dog. So I'm not going to say it's dog so because it wasn't.
Yeah.
But whenever you take the guy down with that much speed, knowing you're going to get caught, it's another yellow card, and everybody knows it's a yellow.
And
he
no
knew
play
it was
at the
another,
ball. No play at the ball whatsoever.
He knew it was another yellow card, right? So it was one of those. Everybody was just sort of waiting for the referee to pull it out, and then he was just, I'm going to talk to him. Greg Vanney just like threw his arms down. Was like, you got to be kidding! Like I can't even happen. But no, it was again. I disagree with the people who say that this was a Galaxy team that didn't look prepared, that maybe looked scared. I will say that they didn't have the same bite that you want them to have. But again, the level of competition in Tigres was a different level. Every single player told me about how difficult this game was to play, but they were all energized by it. That was the whole thing that sort of comes on the backside. They were energized by it. Scott French was out there asking most of the players, are you guys on the precipice of turning this around? Does it feel? And they're all like, yes, we are there. Like it should have happened against Orlando, right? Like that was the whole thing that makes Orlando crazy is
missed opportunities.
Right.
Yeah.
The Galaxy played really good for about 70 plus minutes and then threw it all away. Right. And you're like, that was the step though. That was, if the Galaxy win in Orlando, they draw on Tigres, all of a sudden everybody win against Orlando and then draw against Tigres. All of a sudden everybody's like, oh, okay, this is that.
We're back, baby.
You just missed the points, right? That's what it was. I'm convinced that this team does not suck. You and I were talking about it, right? This team does not suck. The eye test is telling me they don't suck. They need to, and Greg Vanney acknowledged that today. We're not going to win games 4-0 or 4-3 or anything like that. He goes, we're going to have to embrace the idea that we have to win some games 1-0, 2-1. Like those are that's our life right now. And he goes,
not sexy, but it gets the job done.
No, he goes, maybe we can develop into that. He goes, I think we can develop into that towards the end of the season where the offense clicks more, things start coming together a little bit better. I mean, ultimately the Galaxy really missing a big playmaker. They are in the center of the field. And
we should say this as a disclaimer every single week, after every single game, until Ricky Puig comes back. The Galaxy miss Ricky Puig, and they're going to look different. They're not going to have the same bite. They're not going to look as dangerous.
Right.
Maybe they'll power through and get some points, a la how they did in MLS Cup to get things done. But that's going to be a lot harder to do when you don't have Ricky Puig at the field. Silly thing to say. Everyone knows it. Everyone sees it. But we have to tell ourselves that when you want to be super critical of this team is that they're playing with one leg behind their. I was going to say a hand behind their back, but it's soccer, so you put a leg. But do you put a leg behind your back? Regardless, you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm trying to say. They're playing handicapped.
Patrick goes,
can I say that?
Yeah, you can say that. Okay. Like in golf when you're.
That's how I meant it. Yeah.
Okay.
Just,
good.
Being careful. That's all.
Patrick goes, we don't even have a small playmaker. I said, the Galaxy are missing a big playmaker. They don't even have a small playmaker. Not wrong. Let's get your injury updates so we can get through them. Maya Yoshida is hamstring. Again, it's minor. Greg Vanney said it minor, seems very minor hamstring. He says 10 to 14 days. He expects similar to Miki Yamane whenever Miki went out and came back in about 2 weeks. We expect it. The only caveat to that is Greg says he hasn't got an update since after the scans, but he said that Maya already felt better today. We saw Maya walking around. We said hi afterwards. It wasn't a long conversation. When a guy gets injured, you don't really and played 30 minutes. You don't really want to be. Besides how you're feeling and a thumbs up, that's about that's all you can get. But Maya Yoshida, 10 to 14 days. Again, I feel confident in Zonka. The only problem is the gauntlet that now approaches, which is altitude at RSL, altitude at Tigres. You just would want another body in there.
But maybe a blessing in disguise again that Maya, someone with a little bit more miles on those legs, maybe this is the time to, throw Zonka into it, who hasn't, been going nonstop, like Yoshida has. Getting Garces, who's just your wild man, your wild card. So maybe it's a blessing in disguise that this is going to be your preferred defenders going into these matches. I'm with you. Of course, you want more bodies as much as possible, but I think maybe the timing of this does work out where Yoshida gets a break and you're able to test out the new pairing who, honestly didn't look that bad and was able to get the shutout against Tigres.
So that's one that's there. Another injury update for everybody is Lucas Sanabria. We had been talking about it. Vanney confirms that Sanabria was training today, trying to limit his physical contact. He said that they treated him like a quarterback. You know, they probably had a red penny on.
Red
They're
jersey,
like, don't touch him. Don't touch him. And as soon as he was out there, he got like hip checked, fell to the ground, rolled around, and was like laying on his arm. And everybody's like, oh, come on, man. Like, it's
no
just
good.
no touchy. Just leave him alone. The only reason, and somebody said, by the way, Greg said possibly available for Tuesday down in Monterrey, but targeting Houston. Extremely quick for all this. But somebody goes, now it feels like we're just trying to rush people back. We've been hearing that Lucas Sanabria was possibly going to be available ever since we found out it was a non-displaced fracture. Yeah. So basically it stayed in one place. There was a fracture there, but everything, they didn't have to do surgery. They didn't have to reset it. Everything was exactly apparently the way it was supposed to be. That's how we understand it. I don't know that's 100% true, but that's how we understand it. And I believe how it was explained to us. So the heal time is really just letting that bone fuse back together, and then once it's fused back together, they're like, all right, go ahead. There is, I don't know if people know this, right? Whenever bones go back together, they heal stronger than they were before, right? We know
that's
how that's
what I've heard.
Yes,
I'm not a doctor, but yeah.
But what does that do when you know why you're more likely to break it? Then is because the joints on
brittle,
either side, like the joint on either side of the really strong part's now a little bit weaker, right? Like so, like if it's going to break, it's not going to break at the same spot, but it might break next to it, and that type of thing. Yeah. So there's always those chances. So for Sanabria, he was able to train, he was able to run. He has physically, he looks good. He's a Spanish only speaker. So I asked him, of course, I'm like, Lucas, how's the shoulder? And I pointed to his shoulder, and he gave me the thumb. And then Rob Jalen, thank God, he was next to me, and he was like, Lucas, how many more? And he goes, he was like, una semana. I'm like, even I know that one. There we go. Okay, one more week, we're there.
Nice, perfect.
And so no, he was ready to go. So we know Lucas Sanabria coming back again. Want to see more from him because we didn't get to see really anything. Yeah. So
similar to Nascimento, where you knew that it was a work in progress. He was learning how the league worked. He didn't put a stamp on anything, didn't make you say, wow, I'm so glad that the Galaxy have this guy. But, you want to see more of that. So I don't think it's fair to give, Sanabria a grade on what we've seen from him so far this season.
Yeah. By the way, let's finish up with, and then we're going to go to our other thing. Mark Reus. This was sort of confirmation of stuff we knew. I wasn't 100% sure it was a knee. We knew, I think it's the left knee. I think it's this whole left side, quite honestly, and everything else. It could also be the whole right side. I can't remember which way. It
could be the left and the right side.
Could be he's the thing. So Greg said he's going through several, and then he had to figure out a good word to use. So that's always nice whenever you're like, this is what we're trying to do. But going through several treatments, they're trying to balance between getting him ready for the, right now, let's get him back, let's get him in. Mm-hmm. And also we need to make sure that you're good for the long term. So we don't want to do that either. Combination of high level athlete who has years of wear. I mean, he got injured last year in the playoffs, and this is still something that sort of is building and is still lingering along, but it's also because he has years and years as a top level athlete and miles on the knees and everything else. So there's all this conglomeration of things. I will say this, and this is speculation and speculation only. I do not get the warm and fuzzy feeling about this just because it seems like the solution is a little obtuse, right? Like it's just not. It doesn't feel like it's just, this is his timeline. This is when he's going to be back. This is the thing. And when things stop being like you can fit him in a box and sort of understand them really easily, that makes me worried.
We've seen this. We've seen this movie before with different players. Chicharito, Douglas Costa come to mind. Giovanni Dos Santos and some of these other names where the injuries come and it's a little bit more vague. We at the beginning of the season, Joseph Paintsil, 6 to 8 weeks, he'll be back. Sanabria, 4 to 6 weeks, he'll be back. And then here he's getting treatments. We're testing things out. I totally understand where it's like, okay, what's going to happen? Are we shutting him down until the All-Star break, until the summer transfer window? How is this looking? I'm with you that I'm not as hopeful on it. The saving grace is that, he wasn't he adds to your team, but it's not like he was, setting the world on fire when he was on the pitch as well.
I think the other part about this is I just wouldn't be surprised if perhaps this could be it for him, right? Like one of those things where it's sort of like he's just not going to play this year. Like that's just going to be it. They're going to shut it down. They're going to do the whole thing. there's relief inside of things using the season-ending injury list if you wanted to, where the Galaxy could possibly get back a player up to, I believe, his spending limit. Like if he was to go on the SEI,
should be max TAM, right?
Yeah,
so.
I believe so. There's
close to it.
There's like rules that are applied here, and I can't remember what it is. Like you don't get salary cap relief, but basically you get the relief of you're able to replace them, and then you're able to replace them with a player that's X'd up to the salary, that type of thing. But there's some other rules in there that mean it can only be like max budget, which would be $1 million less, that type of thing. But even at $600,000, there's a chance there. Wouldn't be surprised. I'm not saying that's the way it's going, but I think there's some flexibility from what the Galaxy can do. I have been told the LA Galaxy are in great shape for 2026 in terms of salary cap and everything else. This was the squeeze. This is where this was going to be the hard year. This is how to do. So
guess where they're not in great shape? 2025.
Yeah, right. And it's
So-
you're sort of up against it. That being said, I think that there's still an ability to move some stuff around, because with knowing you're in such good shape in 2026, you can actually do stuff to sort of leverage that into 2025. So I think that there's still the ability to do something. But we will see what that ends up being. But with Marco Reus, it is a question mark. I don't know. I was
going to say with what you just shared right now, I think I'm going to check Instagram, because I'm sure the Instagram accounts are going to say Corner of the Galaxy, Reus out for the season. I'm sure we'll see that tomorrow, or I'll see that in 30 minutes. Yeah.
Everybody heard where I said this is speculation on my part, right? Speculation. I am trying to connect dots here that there's no clear path of connecting, and I don't know that. One is, I'm sure the Galaxy have a much better view of what's going on than I do. I would hope so.
And
please.
We don't know.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
We don't know.
They're not telling us what it is. They may have a timeline.
Right.
We just don't know.
We just don't know what it is. And Greg certainly could have given a timeline today, right? Yeah. Like it was certainly the ability to do that. So anyway, that's with Marco Reus, and sort of how that sits. So those are the updates. Let's go to Gary, $2 super chat. Hammer and Pato's best Savannah, Georgia accent. I do declare. That's the only thing I can. That's. I was
gonna say, R.I.P. Val Kilmer. I always kind of go Doc Holliday, right?
Oh,
yeah, I'll be your Huckleberry, right? Kind of that.
Yes.
That vibe to it. In my mind, also, I've been watching White Lotus, so the North Carolina, like Piper. No, yeah, you get a little drawl to it.
No,
no.
Yes, I could hear it. I could hear it.
Lachlan, yeah, come on, my son Saxon's a Tar Heel. Yeah. So again, I maybe went a different direction with it, but you got some voice work. Either way, Gary, you got a little voice work.
It was worth it. Crazy Brain, $5 super chat. His son Adam wants to ask you both, what's your favorite autograph by an LA Galaxy player? And if you could choose one current player to get an autograph, who would it be? So favorite, I know who mine is. Mine's not going to be sexy. It's sexy to me. It's just not sexy to anybody else, right? Like this is Josh's own thing. So you go first, because yours is going to be like good.
Well, mine. It's. I don't know if it's too on the nose, but Zlatan Ibrahimovic had the opportunity to get his autograph in the Champions Lounge. Doesn't get much better than that. The funny story about it is I just wanted a selfie. So basically, track Zlatan down. If you're ever in the Champions Lounge, you kind of see how it works when they go by.
Right.
I turn around to take the selfie, and he's already signing my shirt. I didn't ask for the autograph,
like,
but I got an autograph anyway.
Did you throw down? You should have thrown down. Take the shirt off. What are you doing? That's my
I didn't ask for your autograph. Come on, now you have to buy me a new one.
You ruined it, Zlatan.
Yeah. So moments with Big Z, that's always going to go up there. So that's my favorite Galaxy autograph that I have. Honorable mention to Cosmo. I have a Cosmo autograph jersey
that's
from the LA Galaxy Foundation.
One of those too.
Yeah, and current player who I'd want an autograph from, Gabriel Peck. I love the guy. To know that the progression and maybe where he gets sold and his ceiling from here, to have that souvenir. I was there when he was just an LA Galaxy player. To know where that's going, he'd be on my list.
Current right now.
LA Galaxy player.
Current LA Galaxy player for me right now, Joseph Paintsil. I want an autograph with some song lyrics. I want some song lyrics.
Personalized song lyrics.
Personalized song lyrics is what I want. By the way, Joseph Paintsil announcing that he has his new music is coming out. I forget when it said it, because I was looking at, but one is, I would just like to get credit for an excellent tweet that I put out after he said my music coming out. This is just, this is me not being cool at all. Let's be very clear. Joseph Paintsil, way cooler than me, always will be. Me, not cool. But I'm like, not only is he back, he's back, right? Like you got both. Not only is he playing, but the music's dropping too. Joseph Paintsil coming in.
This was on purpose. He knows how to build a dramatic to a crescendo here.
He knows. He's combining the worlds, man. He's bringing it all together. One love right here. You can feel it. Blessings always. So that would be mine. My favorite LA Galaxy, and I would like to point out, I don't get a lot of autographs. Mostly as press, you don't, right? And so a lot of
that's
times,
why I didn't ask actually,
right.
But that just kind of happened. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have to wait usually for those guys to retire or to do something like that. And that means that I have to have a pretty probably special relationship with someone. So one of them was Todd Donovan, big surprise, like Todd Donovan and him and all the great stuff that he did for the LA Galaxy is there. I would also say AJ De La Garza is in that, like with just in terms of having covered him his whole career from the moment he joined the LA Galaxy till the moment he retired and sort of being able to, and always, I have a great respect for AJ. So it was always easy to get along with him, that type of stuff. What he meant to this show over the years, I could never thank him enough, like all the stuff that he has done. So there was a moment at his retirement gig where they had the celebration up in Long Beach that he saw me and we got to like hug out and I go, we get to take a picture now because I go, you're not a player anymore. We are done. And so we got to take a picture. But anything signed by him is always good. That's a great question. Thank you for that. Gus, by the way, $2 super chat. How did the Galaxy not earn a spot in the Club World Cup? Because apparently they want to put somebody in from 2023 and not from 2025. Or 2024, I should say. That's basically, it's a 2023 spot that is open. And because of that, they're going to fill it with a 2023 team.
Is that the logic? I thought it was U.S. Open Cup was the direction. Who knows? To be fair, there's a lot of funny business and openings and domestic competitions that you could pull from.
Right.
Pulling 2 out of the 3 most recent domestic competitions does make it interesting, and the Galaxy got the short end of the stick there. So that is the bummer that they're not able to see it, but who knows how FIFA works.
Mr. Provino says my favorite player was Charlie Rugg, which, hey, man. Charlie Rugg,
he doesn't let you off the hook,
Rookie of the Year possibility. Listen, it was just lack of playing time. Really, I blame Bruce Arena. That's what I do. But no, it was always good. Always good to have a Charlie Rugg reference in the show. That means it was a good show. So 100%.
I think we may have missed one. Also, Adam, $2 super chat say, when is the next must-win game?
Oh, I see the
playoffs.
Like technically, you could say it's next Tuesday whenever you play against Tigres. If you consider a win a draw in this particular case, because they have to either draw or win the game in order to do it. Any draw, by the way, the LA Galaxy advance.
Is that how that works?
Yeah.
It doesn't go into penalties?
No.
0-0 on both ends?
No, because they will have away goals whenever it goes in there, and the away goal will break any tie. So because it's 0-0, the away goal will break any tie. So if Tigres score 2 and the LA Galaxy score 2, then it's tied.
Yeah. I thought you meant a 0-0 draw on the other end.
No, you can't 0-0 draw. Sorry, 0-0 draw doesn't do anything because there's no. But if the Galaxy have any scored draw is an LA Galaxy win, right? So 1-1, 2-2, 3-3, 4-4, 5-5, all that stuff. That being said, I mean, if you're asking me for prediction now, Tigres, I still give it. The Tigres players, from what I could overhear, and then also from the Mexican media that was there, were all like, this is fine for Tigres. They don't care that it's 0-0. Like it favors them to go back. It does favor them because they're going home and it's going to be a different atmosphere and everything is.
Yeah.
The problem is that score is not the best score for them. A 1-0 win would have been great, or a 1-1 would have been really good for them because they could have wiped out some away goal possibilities, right? If that happens, and they didn't do that, so they actually failed on that front. If you're Tigres, you wanted to make sure that you scored an away goal. Similar to watching Miami and LAFC the night, really for Miami, a 1-1 would have been great because the away goal would have canceled anything out. Now you have to worry about what happens whenever it goes back into Miami. So I don't want to hear.
I was going to say, even Herediano, they got a 1 goal advantage and that still wasn't good enough. So, the Galaxy weren't able to get a 1-0. So you take that. But, they still have a lot of work to do.
It is. It's uphill for them 100%. So yeah, that's where it sits. Let's see. Anything else that we need to get to that I haven't got to? We have to talk about the game, but I'm just making sure we have everything else.
Fonzie had another one. $4.99 super chat. Just $4.99. Thank you, Fonzie.
That is correct. Now take off your shirt.
No.
April 2025. Here it is, the LA Galaxy, Salt Lake, then Tigres, then home to Houston, and then away to Austin, then home to Portland. That is your month. It is busy. It is varied. It is scary. Two games at altitude back to back is going to be a tough sort of play there. I'm waiting to find out. I imagine the Galaxy will come back from RSL back to LA after the game on Saturday, because it's an early game. Because why is it an early game? God only knows. But anyway, Miami right now.
Central Time. It's great for me. I'll be awake.
You'll be good to go. Miami right now leading the East and leading, I believe, the entire league. Or they tied with, what's the goal differential? There's a 5 and 6. Yeah, Miami is leading the whole league right now. So Miami up in front. They have been playing very good. 4 wins, 1 draw for them. And then as you look at the very bottom team is Montreal. Your last person to get in the playoffs from the East right now is New York. The Red Bulls, New York, Cincinnati, Orlando, Nashville, Charlotte, Chicago, Columbus, Philadelphia, Miami. That's from 9th to 1st. If we come over to the Western Conference, it is Vancouver at 13. The LA Galaxy have 2 points, just in case you were playing. 13th place once again. There it is. Can't escape that. Yep, that's always fun.
2023 all over again.
Austin 12 points, San Diego 11, Minnesota 11, Colorado 11, Portland 10, Dallas 10. Talking to reporters, I don't know who the good club is in the Western Conference yet. I'm not a full believer in Vancouver. I think they're okay.
No, I believe in Vancouver. I think they're going to be a team to beat this season.
It would be hard for them not to be with just the start they had, right? Like in terms of, I don't know that they're going to end up being the best team in the Western Conference. I'm not convinced San Diego is a top 4 teams yet. But beating LAFC was a big game for them. That was huge, and they have the ability to do things. Where the LA Galaxy, I don't know yet, and it drives me crazy that I sort of can't place a team that was an MLS Cup champions, and I can't tell you where they sort of are. But I'll tell you where they are right now. They're in 13th, and they deserve to be there. They haven't won any games. That's sort of where it is. So
100%.
As they get ready to travel over to America First Field, Saturday, April 5th, 2025, it's 1:30, 1:40 p.m. is your start times. MLS season passes where you can, of course, get it. I will tell you right now, I will not have coverage for this because it is in the middle of the dang day, and I have family obligations to take care of. As I've told you, everybody, the Electric Lightning Dragons, my kids' U6 team, they have games.
What a name!
Oh, right.
What a name!
I mean,
that's fantastic.
ELD for life. They're all getting tattoos. That's what we're gonna do. But no, so they have games, so I'm gonna have to cover that. So good luck, Godspeed for all the fun that is about to happen. Real Salt Lake coming off a loss, 2-0 loss to Minnesota. If you go
lost their badge too. Looks like.
I don't know what is up with MLS. It totally just forgot who RSL was. I'm like, are they changing it? Did somebody not tell me?
Rebrand,
yeah. April 1st joke. I have no idea what they're going to change it to. But looking at the game, remember, LA Galaxy went to Minnesota, got a draw. RSL went to Minnesota, got a loss. By the transitive property says the LA Galaxy are better than Real Salt Lake. They just have to prove it whenever it comes through here. So just looking at what RSL has done, they're gonna want to bounce back. They're gonna want something from this game. And I think, seeing the loss to Dallas and the loss to Minnesota, they beat Houston in Houston. They lost to San Diego in RSL. They beat a wounded Seattle team 2-0, in RSL. And then had the collapse to Herediano, which is why the Galaxy should have been playing. So I can't tell you how many people I talked to at the LA Galaxy were like, stupid RSL. They were just like, we could have been playing them and not having to travel all over the place to Costa Rica whenever they had the Herediano, and all that fun stuff. So that's where we sort of sit. Do you want to do D ratings on this one?
Yeah, D ratings has this one with Real Salt Lake is the favorite. So they're at 41.8%. The LA Galaxy with a 31.5% chance to win, and then a 26.7% chance for a draw. Again, obviously that favors RSL being the home team, but if you follow D ratings and seen what we've done in the past, that's actually a pretty good percentage for an away team. So given where RSL is on the standings, who's in their lineup, I think we can trick ourselves into thinking that the points are there from the table. The people who don't believe us are the people in Las Vegas.
Right.
They had the opening line. They had the Galaxy right now at plus 235 at the win. At plus 250 was the opening line there. So again, positive odds if you're thinking the Galaxy can come out of there with 3 points. RSL with only plus 110 and then a draw plus 245. So again, maybe you put a few ducats on the LA Galaxy. If you feel like RSL isn't scary, you look at their lineup. Diego Luna is probably the only player where you look at who's probably going to be the threat, but they've shut him down in the past. You don't have Chicho Arango there anymore. So again, sitting at that plus 250 or plus 235 or even plus 225, not a financial advisor, but that feels like a good place to go place your money. If you go with the over-under analysis, that's something I always like to look at, usually set at 3. They have the under at minus 130. So again, they're expecting this to be a low-scoring game. I wouldn't expect the Galaxy to set it on fire with goals. You've talked about it with Greg Vanney, RSL, not exactly scoring tons of goals. They don't have anyone with more than one goal in their MLS, scoring roster. So I think you're not going to see a goal fest. So betting the under and then the Galaxy to win, I kind of like that.
A 2-1, a 2-1, nothing, like a
I think a 1-0. I think a 1-0 smash and grab.
Smash and grab, yep. But score in like the 83rd minute, a 0-0 game score in the 83rd minute, run to the bus, get on the plane.
I like a 4-minute Joseph Paintsil,
right.
goal, and then just squeaky bum for 85.
Yeah. I love that. That's great. That's always good. You scored too early. That's my favorite. Yeah. Scored too early. Somebody finally did the Major League. I saw somebody doing like if Major League was updated for the thing, and somebody hits the home run. He's like too high, and he's like, what do you mean too high? And he was like too high, and he goes, no, not too high, too hard, right? It was one of those. That's basically it. Is smash and grab, get it early is a good response to that. Just looking at RSL, trying to figure out who they are. Greg Vanney said, they've lost something from last year. I will say this: don't count out Pablo's teams because they're just they're stupid. Hang on, they just hang on, and they're mean and they're nasty. They haven't played since Saturday. The LA Galaxy played on Tuesday. The LA Galaxy have another game on Tuesday. It's not ridiculous to think that there's too many games and not enough time for the LA Galaxy. The Galaxy aren't healthy enough to really sort of weather these next two. I wouldn't be surprised. Greg Vanney was talking about, how to sort of get people up and running. He goes, eventually we got to get Eric up and running too. So, in one of these games, I think Eric Zavaleta is going to probably be out there. So everybody who's already pearl clutching,
time, folks, get your forks, get your pupusas. It's time. It's Zavaleta time.
So that's one of those things. I think there's going to be some rotation. Pay attention to guys who didn't play on Tuesday night. I would say guys like Harbor Miller, a guy like maybe Julian Aude, who
still on my list. Yep.
I would say Tucker Lepley, right? Like those types of things. Who are the guys who like really they sort of got a little bit of a rest and who could come in because the Galaxy will have 2 games in 5 days and they're going to have to deal with all that. Both of them at altitude, by the way. So the recovery is not going to be generous to these guys. So as it goes. All right. Predictions guaranteed to be wrong. Give it to me.
Well, I tipped my cap.
Yes,
a 1-0 win. I think Joseph Paintsil, early goal, getting a shutout, getting JP on the sheet. I think you do that and get the HE double hockey sticks out of Utah. That's I'm speaking it into existence. I know they maybe haven't shown us that, but I think that's what I'm going to make the prediction. The Galaxy finally get their first win in Utah.
Score early, get on the bus, hit one of those soda bars on the way to the
swig sodas. Get your dirty soda and get out of there.
Get out of there. Was there dirty Dr. Pepper? Isn't there?
Dirty Dr. Pepper. Yeah. Oh yeah. They got them all.
I think it's Dr. Pepper with half and half, if I'm correct.
Yeah. That is absolutely correct.
God bless Utah. God bless. Quirky little Utah.
There's one called the Big Booty Judy. It has cherry Coke, a little raspberry puree. It's good times.
I don't think that's that's that type of show.
Did I order the wrong film?
Could have been. Never know.
Do people still order films? Is that on demand still a thing?
I don't think so. I don't think that's. I don't. No, because you go in and the TV's barely working hotels anymore.
That's true.
It's like they're like, you have an iPad. Use an iPad. Why are you bothering us? Right? And it's like, okay, gotcha. Yeah, that's probably true. I will say there is no draw. There is no draw. There's going to be a win. There's going to be a loss. Okay, so no draw. It's not going to happen. It's really hard to get on that bus with you. I know it.
I know. I'm speaking it into existence. It's not coming from a place of logic or even support what the stats are telling us. D ratings, Vegas, everything's saying to not do what I'm doing, but I get it.
I mean, why not? I don't know what to tell you. I mean, what are you going to lose? Is there an MLS Cup from last year in the trophy cabinet? There is. Okay, cool. Let me. Yep, still there, right? It's still there. Okay, good. Yeah, I like your 1-0. I'm gonna hop on the hammer train. I don't want to. Good. We want to make good podcast is no. They're gonna lose 1-0. That's good podcast. What do I think? I don't know what to think about this team. They keep confusing me. But I thought it was gonna be a win in that Orlando game. They scored first. They did everything they were supposed to. Mm-hmm. They didn't do it. And so now I'm like, what are you guys just not going to do it this year? Is it just not going to happen? Are you trying to force it? Like you're trying to be breezy, but you can't say you're being breezy when you're being breezy. Yeah. It's like you don't force it. You can't force the breeziness.
Give yourself a nickname. Yeah.
No, it doesn't work that way. So, just go out there and, give it your best shot. That's what I say. I hope everybody has fun,
man.
right?
I pray for the LA Galaxy this season. If the best analysis we could come out with is, hey, just go out there, have fun, give it your best shot, fellas. That's where we're at in this LA Galaxy season.
There's a website. There's a website. I think it's called FeedSpot. And it sort of ranks podcasts and different things and stuff like that. And so it has us as the top LA Galaxy podcast, which is very nice of them.
Okay, we did it, guys. We did it, Joe.
100%.
Shut it down.
I think we're number 3 in all of Los Angeles podcasts, behind like a Lakers podcast and like a different, like a Rams podcast, and then like, the type of thing. So I was like, okay, sure. In California, we're like in the top 10 in terms of sports podcasts. It's clearly designed to make me give them money. Right? Yeah, I'm sure it's a scam, but I don't care. If you want to scam me and I'm not going to give you any money and I get to talk about it, it's fine. But the type of analysis you can get on this show is, I hope everybody has fun. That's a top 3 in Los Angeles podcast. Yep. 100%. Orange slices, right? Or is it? By the way, Mr. Provino says his favorite Kiss lyric is, "I am a cool man. I am the breeze." See, exactly. That's all we need. Paul Stanley fed me or brought me chicken wings and a beer at Dignity Health Sports Park. I would just like to point out, it's a weird thing to say. I was going to say that 100% happened.
Not beating that story. That's a good way to end it on there.
All right. The LA Galaxy facing off against Real Salt Lake coming up 1:30 p.m. That's right. 1:30 p.m. Might as well be 1:30 a.m. as far as I'm concerned. 1:40 p.m. will be your kickoff time. It is on MLS Season Pass. This is on RSL. I know some people were in Vegas and then making their way over to Real Salt Lake to go see this game. So out to Sandy, Utah at American First Field. That's where you're going to want to be. I will find out about the LA Galaxy's travel schedule following this game, and I imagine they're going to head back to LA and then down to Monterey. That seems like the most likely. It's kind of on the way back, so it would make sense to come back down out of altitude, recover, and then go back up to altitude whenever you need to. So that's what we got. Eric, anything else? Oh, wait, there is one more thing. Yadira Moreno, who we talked about last game, yes. She passed away. She's a big Galaxy fan. I was able to go see her husband and the kids before the game, I think against Orlando, and just say hi and that type of thing. But it is a little happy birthday there for Yadira, because this would have been her birthday. So from everybody here at COG, obviously, we're sorry for your loss and a happy birthday. And hopefully, there can be some mild celebrations around that. I know how that's a tough spot, especially so soon after a passing. But hopefully, you can find some respite in all the good memories and everything that goes.
Hopefully, we get some joy out of the gathering that you get this weekend watching the Galaxy, and some positivity to come out of that. We'll send the good vibes your way.
Yeah, it is. It's certainly. It's just the Galaxy place is a place of good vibes. And when I was talking to her husband and her kids, it sort of got that feeling that this was one of her good places. So the whole deal. So anyway, our thoughts are out with the family at this time. So that's what we have. The LA Galaxy playing RSL coming up on Saturday. So again, no coverage, no live coverage. I'll certainly try to follow up, and we'll be ready for the Monday night podcast whenever it comes around. So I'll be watching that Saturday evening. You can bet. So that's what I got. Anything else, Eric? We good?
No, I think we're good to go.
All right. Tell people where they can find you, and we will get on out of here.
All right. As always, you can find me on Blue Sky, Instagram, and Threads at HammerEV9. That's HammerEV and the number 9.
All right. If you're looking for me on all the socials, at Galaxy Podcast, head on over to cornerofthegalaxy.com, where you can find all of our podcasts. Head on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, iTunes, any place you can find a podcast. You, of course, can find Corner of the Galaxy. You need to tell your friends about this show. I mean, again, if I hope everybody just has fun isn't a solid enough reason to watch the show, I don't know what else is. Maybe it's the old movie references. That might be something that you could do. But you need to tell your friends. You need to tell your family. We'd love to see you at a meetup at the stadium at the top of Section 108, the bottom of the press box stairs. All right, that's all we have for today. We are very thankful for all of you listeners. We hope you have a wonderful weekend. The LA Galaxy facing Real Salt Lake on Saturday. That's a 1:30 p.m. TV start time on MLS Season Pass. For Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira, I'm Josh, Pato Guesman. You've been listening to our little Corner of the Galaxy. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening. We ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye.